You're welcome, our dear viewer, to this lesson of Primary 4. Today we are going to be discussing yet another important item in our workbooks, that is picked from page 28. We have been looking at types of leaders that we have in our district. We talked about political leaders, we talked about civic leaders, we talked about religious leaders, we also talked about voluntary leaders, and we also talked about cultural leaders that we also call traditional leaders. So today we are going to look at an election which we pick from the political leaders, because we say that these political leaders go to power after winning an election. Therefore, today we are going to understand what we mean by an election and the entire process of an election. We are going to begin by defining the term election. Or we can say an election. An election is a democratic way. An election is a democratic way of choosing a leader. A democratic way of choosing a leader, and this is done by voting. That is how we are going to define an election. An election is a democratic way of getting a leader, or we can say choosing a leader by voting, which means we are going to look at the voting process, how it begins and how it ends. Now, before we look at the voting process, there are some important terms that we need to understand which come in line with an election. They come in line with voting exercise. Number one that we have on our page 28, we have what we call the Independent Electoral Commission. Independent Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission. That we can write in short as IEC, or sometimes we can have it as Electoral Commission, EC. Now, this Electoral Commission is the body in Uganda which is in charge organizing these elections. It is the body that organizes the elections in Uganda. Then we have also what we call a polling station. That is another term we are going to understand. Polling station. A polling station, this is a place where people now go to elect their leaders, where people go and they now vote. So we can simply say a polling station is a place where elections take place, as simple as that. Then, of course, we also need to note that in a polling station, or at a polling station, we are going to be having people who help others. That is to make that exercise of elections take place. One, we have what we call the presiding officer. Presiding officer at a polling station. The presiding officer is the person who is in charge that polling station, meaning he is the person who is in charge the activities in that polling station. And then we have what we call the polling agents. Polling agents. Now, the polling agents, these are the people who represent the candidates who are to be voted for in that area. You will find that if like there are presidents, so you will find that there will be one person who will be at that polling station to look after or to look at what is happening at that polling station, such that his or her candidate that is representing will not be cheated, to make sure that he witnesses or she witnesses what is taking place. Of course, we shall be expecting everything to going on smoothly and in a fair way. So that is, those are the people we call polling, the polling agents or the polling, we can also call them the candidate agents. Those are the people we have. Then we also have what we call, we have talked about the presiding officer. We have the police constable. We have the police constable. Now, the police constable, these are, if we have the many constables, which means we are having the police officers who will be in charge, those are the people who are in charge security at that polling station to ensure that the exercise goes on smoothly without other people interrupting, without some other people causing chaos, causing confusion at that polling station. That is the work of the police constable. As we know, the police are to make sure there is order in an area. Then number 6, we have polling assistants. Polling assistants. The polling assistants are different from the polling agents. The polling agents, we are saying these are people who represent the candidates who are to be voted for. Now, the polling assistants, these are the people who work together with the presiding officer. They are the ones who help in verifying the voters. They are the ones who can help to give the ballot papers to the voters for them to tick, and then directing them on where to pass. You will find that polling station, that area where the elections are conducted, is going to be gazetted and is going to be marked. You will find there is the main entrance, whereby when you reach there, you will be now verified by these polling assistants. They will ask you what is your name, and then you will now produce your voter's identity card, meaning the card which will prove that you are an eligible voter. And then after that, they can now give you, after checking your name in the voters register, we are going to look at that one also. We have what we call the voters register. We have it also on that page. Voters register. Voters register. Now, the voters register, just like we have at, like in our class, we have the class register. Also here, this is a book which is containing the names and the pictures, the photographs of those people who are supposed to vote in that area. Remember, not every other person can go anywhere and he or she can vote. You have to be registered first, and then you can now have your name, your details are captured and put in that book, such that when you go there, that you are going now to vote, they will ask you, what is your name? Maybe you say, Eddie Mzuza, whatever the name. Then they say, okay. Then they now go looking for your name. Then when they see the name, of course, they will compare the picture which is on the name together with your face. Then when they verify that, yes, you are the very person, that is after you again producing the voter's ID to show them, they can now give you the the ballot paper. Then you can now go and you tick the person of your own. That's now what we call voting. So that is what happens with the voters register. It is a book containing the names of the eligible voters, meaning the names of people who are supposed to vote at that polling station. Now, after you voting, after you being verified, we have said you will be given a ballot paper. ballot paper. We are now, like I said, we are having things that we need to understand. Sorry, this is ballot paper first. Now, the ballot paper is that sheet of paper which is having the names. Sometimes it now depends. You'll find in most cases it now contains the names and the pictures of the people that we are to vote for. Those are the people we call candidates. So a ballot paper is a paper containing the candidates who are to be voted for. So when you are given yours by this by this polling assistants, you go to a secret place. Remember, this is what we call secret ballot, because no one is to see the person you are to give your vote or the person you are to tick. So you go to a secret place and then you look at the people there, you identify yours that you have been supporting, that you want to win, and then you give, there is that space where you are to put the tick. So you put your tick there. After you ticking, you are to fold it lengthwise and then you take it and put in a ballot box. So that is another item we are going to understand. Number 9, we are going to have here a ballot box. Now, a ballot box, as we can see, is a box. This is now the box, or it is a container where these ballot papers are put. That is after you ticking. So we are going to have our box, and you find that our box will be open here. There is a hole here where you can now put the ballot, and the ballot enters here and it sits there, and every other person comes, does the same. Then after the whole exercise, at the end of the day, they will now get that box, first shake it to mix up the ballots inside, such that no one will get to know that this one was for so and so. Then they will open, and then they begin now counting. We are still continuing. Before that time reaches of counting and so on, we have what we call the permanent ink. That is, after you voting, after you putting now the ballot in the box, you are supposed to proceed and you receive what we call the permanent ink. Permanent ink. Now, this is, like you can hear, ink, meaning this is the ink that one dips, and it is like you can either dip it. You will find there is an ink pot where you can dip your finger. That is a sign that you are finished to vote. If not, sometimes they can use, in case that permanent ink is not there, they can use a marker. Then they mark it on your finger to show that you have finished to vote, which means there is no way again you can go and you make a U-turn, you come again to vote. And then also we have, remember, we have what we call a candidate. We have said a candidate is that person who is to be voted for. Candidate. That is the person we call. Remember here we say we have the polling agents that we can call candidate agents. And we say these are people who represent the candidates who are to be voted for. Now, the candidates, or a candidate, if it's one, is that person who is to be voted for. Those are the people who want to win. We call them the candidates. Now we shall go and we vote for them. And then we have what we call the returning officer. That is the person who is in charge an election at or in a district. It's called a returning officer. Now, after the results being made, that person takes the results to the Electoral Commission. That is forwards the results to the Electoral Commission in Kampala. But what we need to remember is there is what we call a polling day. A polling day. Now, a polling day, this is the day when these elections take place. That is the day when the elections take place. Like if they are saying now we are going to have the presidential elections, meaning we are going to vote for the presidents on maybe 3rd May, which means that 3rd May is the one that is going to be called a polling day. It is the day when elections are to take place. That is the simple way we can understand that. Now, that is, we also need to note that we have what we call systems of elections. Systems of elections. We may not be having this, but we need to also add this to our knowledge. We have what we call open elections. Open elections, and then we shall have what we call secret ballot. Now, the one we have been talking about has been under a secret ballot, which means it deals with the use of a ballot paper. And as we discussed, as we defined a ballot paper, we say this is a piece of paper containing the names and the pictures of the people that we are to vote for, that we have called candidates. Now, the other one is what we call open elections. Now, in open elections, people do not go for ballot papers. You will find that this is an election whereby people gather at once in an area, and then the candidates, I hope you have now understood the meaning of candidates. The candidates are placed in an area, the candidates stand, and then they can say, people who support these candidates, please go and line behind them. Now, if there are like 10, maybe 5 candidates, so you will now go and instead of you going now with the ballot paper, you now go and you stand behind the candidate that you are supporting. That is what we call open elections. Or sometimes you find an example, it must have happened in your class in a way that the teacher can say, today we are going to vote for maybe the class captain. Then maybe some names are put on the board. Maybe they can say, we have names, we have Janet, then maybe we have Anne, we have maybe Amon. Those are the names. And maybe we have Simon. So these are the names. And then the teacher will now say, how many people want Janet to be our class captain? Raise your hands. Then those ones raise their hands. The teacher counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the teacher writes the names, of course, 6. How many people want Anne to be the class captain? Maybe people now raise their hands, then the teacher still counts those ones also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe they are now 10. And has 10 people. How many people want Emon? They now raise their hands and the teacher counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. How many people want Simon? Now the teacher counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Good. Now when you look at this one is 5, 5, 6, 10. Which means the one who will have got the highest number of people supporting him or her becomes the leader. So that is what we call by an open election. You will find that it has its advantages. Number one, it is very quick to conduct. Secondly, it is cheap. Does not require any money compared to the other one of the ballot paper, which needs you to first print those ballot papers. That is a lot of money going. The other one is very cheap and it saves time. Just raise the hands or just run a line behind a person. It's done at once, people go away. So, we also need to know that this very system has got the disadvantages. In that, remember, as the teacher is saying, these people who want so and so raise their hand. So you find that even the person is seeing the ones voting for him and the ones who are not voting for him or her. So you'll find that it creates some bit of hatred or enmity, in that the person will see that and will be like, now you see even the other one who has been my friend is not raising the hand to support me. So that one brings some misunderstandings. Though if it was through secret ballot, that's why they call it secret, because no one gets to know. You can even vote for another person, then you go and tell the other, you know what, I voted for you, yet you voted for another person. No one gets to know, because at the time of you ticking, you were alone in that secret place. So that's why the other one becomes better. However, the other one we have said, it is also it is expensive and it takes a lot of time. So that is what we have, and the problem again we have with this one is that it can sometimes be affected by things like voting. I mean rigging of votes, vote rigging, call it vote rigging. Oh, now that's now where we have corruption coming in, bribing. Some people bribe others that when it comes to announcing, you announce me. After all, no one witnessed, no one saw. People were just counting, and maybe there can be some misunderstandings there. So those are the challenges that are always associated with voting. So that is what happens in that exercise of voting. So you'll find that it is a process. It is not something which happens at once. You'll find it's a process. It begins from people starting to take up positions. Which people want this, those people take up positions, they are nominated, that is, they are verified, and they are given a go-ahead, they go and campaign, and now the day will be fixed for the elections to take place. As that one is happening, you will find that even on the other side, the people who are to vote, we call them the electorate. We did not add that here, but we shall now add it, the electorate. I hope you have finished to write those systems of election somewhere in your book. We would have written here, electorate. Electorate, we are meaning the people who are supposed to vote, the ones who are eligible to vote. Of course, remember, according to our constitution in Uganda, for one to vote or for one to be able to be given that permission to vote, one must have reached 18 years and above. And again, it is not just a matter of you reaching 18 years and you run to vote. No. One has to reach 18 years, then that person registers with the Electoral Commission that we call here the Independent Electoral Commission. That is now when that person will be given that voters register, I mean the voters card, and the name will be put in the voters register. Remember I told you, when one reaches the polling station, one has to produce that voters register, and they have to check your name if it is there in that book. If it is not there, then you will not be given permission to vote. So the minimum age for one to be given the permission to vote is 18 years. They can be asking you a question in primary 4. Maybe they can say, Joan, a P4 girl, was not allowed to vote for the president. Give a reason. Why do you think the girl was denied? Remember, Joan, who is in the P4, can Joan be of 18? The answer should be no. So Joan had not yet reached the voting age, which is the minimum, as we have said, that is 18. We are going now to look at page 29, whereby we have what we call the qualities of a good leader. As a leader, remember we said a leader is a person who inspires others to follow him or her. A person who gives orders or instructions and others obey. A person who leads a group of people. All those are the definitions of a leader. Now, this person has to be having some qualities. There are things that that person is supposed to portray to the rest, to the public. Number one, this person is supposed to be a kind one. That's why when we are writing, we say a good leader should be kind. Now, in this book, we have just given you just listing those qualities. But now, when it comes to you answering in your question, if a question is saying, write down any 2 qualities of a good leader, don't also just throw there kind, tolerant. Now there you are to bring a sentence, because you are now answering. In your answering, you construct a sentence saying a good leader should be kind. A good leader should be tolerant. A good leader should be trustworthy. A good leader should be respectful. A good leader should be loving. A good leader should be knowledgeable. A good leader should be transparent. A good leader should be developmental. A good leader should be hardworking. A good leader should be faithful, and all of them. That is what we are supposed to be doing when we are given a question to write. We are going to look at the rights of the people in our district, still on that very page. The rights, these are the freedoms that people are entitled to enjoy. Freedoms that people are to enjoy as they live in an area. In primary 3, we learned about children's rights, whereby we say these are the freedoms that children have. Now, when we talk about human rights or rights of people, we now leave children alone, not only children, but we are now looking at everybody, including the adults. So we have now to understand the difference that we have between children's rights, those are our rights as children, then we have the rights of people. Meaning that the other one, we are now going out beyond children alone. So here we cannot again have things like a right to play, a right to what? Those ones are for children. A right to education, a right to parental love. Those ones are for the children, as we had. Now we are going to look at the examples of people's rights in our district. We have them on page 30. The first one said people have a right to life, which means no one is supposed to kill the other. That is not allowed. The Constitution does not allow that. Even the Bible, when we read the 10 Commandments in the book of Exodus, that's chapter 20, we shall understand that God gave Moses a commandment and instructed the people not to kill others, not to murder, which means we have that right. The Bible gives us that right, even the Constitution gives us that right. We are not supposed to be killed. That's why you find that when someone kills another person, that person is supposed to be arrested and taken to courts of law for doing that. It is illegal. Number 2, we have a right to security, which means we have a right to live in a secure area, which is free from threats, free from things that can harm us. Then number 3 says we have a right to public information. That's what we call freedom of press. We have a right to hear or to know what takes place in other parts of the country or of the entire world. That's why we find that the information is always sent to people, regardless of the size of the person, the age of the person, the race of the person. As long as you are in that area, every other person can access that information. Can be published through televisions, through radios, through newspapers, all those mass media platforms. That's what we are looking at here. We have the right also to access that information. Number 4, we have a right to free hearing in courts of law, which means when we are taken to court, maybe we were suspected to have done something. Maybe you might be guilty or innocent. You'll find that as a human being, you have a right to be given a fair hearing in courts of law. Not just maybe detaining you without trial. Maybe they can arrest you and they put you in prison without even taking you to court to give you your sentence, because that is not now, that one will be against the human rights. Remember, the people who are arrested, they are supposed to be taken and produced to court so that they can be given their sentences. A sentence is the period, that is the time when one is supposed to spend in prison as a prisoner. Then when that period elapses, when it ends, that person is let out of prison and he will be set free. Which means that if someone has been given a sentence of maybe 2 years imprisonment, you will find that after the 2 years, this person serves knowing that I'm in prison for 2 years because I did this and that. Of course, the person will have been made to understand what made he or she to be taken to that prison. Now, after that sentence, this person will be left free and will be sent back home. Remember, the person will have transformed, as we looked at the work of the prisons in our previous lessons. And then we also have a right to medical care. We have a right to, that is now treatment. We have a right to get treatment when we fall sick. No one should, regardless of saying, don't go to that hospital, don't go to this. No, as long as it's a public hospital, which can offer treatment, even a private hospital, we have the right to go and access treatment from any other health center. Then lastly, we have what we call a right to free movement, meaning we can move from one place to another within the country, remember, freely without being interrupted with. You find sometimes one can leave Kampala, goes to Moroto, maybe the person lives maybe in Mbale, goes to maybe Jinja, goes to Mbarara, Soroti, Gulu, Lira, anywhere in the country. No one is to ask you, where are you going at this time? As long as you are moving at the right hours, not at the awkward night hours. That one, they will arrest you for moving at night because you will be suspected as someone who is bad. But when you are moving during daytime, at the normal hours when every other person is moving on the roads, no one can ask you where you are going, why are you going there, what, no. We have that freedom to move freely from one place to another in our country, Uganda, or in our district, if we are to come back to the district level. Then still in line with that freedom, we also have in our district the freedom of worship. That is a right to worship. Remember, you will find that one can go to any place of worship. No one comes to pull you and say, no, don't go to the other church. Come, we go this way. It is your right. You can decide. That's why you'll find that we have very many religions in our district. We have very many maybe Christian sub-Christian religions. We can call them Christian denominations or Christian sects in our district. You'll find that we can have the Anglicans. They go to their side, they pray. We have the Seventh-day Adventists, they go. We have the born-agains, those are the ones we call Pentecostals, they also go. So you will find that no one can say, you should not be a Catholic, you must be an Anglican. Come and take the Anglican side. No, that one is violating your rights. You have that freedom to, you have that freedom of worship. You choose where you want to worship from. That's why you find that some people are even pagans. No one comes to cane you, maybe that the police come to this, forcing you. No. That is what we call freedom of worship. We also have it in our district. And lastly, we have what we call the freedom of association. You'll find that we have that right to form friends, to associate with the people we want. But remember, you have to associate with those who are responsible. That's why even at school you'll find you can form friendship with any other person. But remember, the person you are a friend to should be a normal person. Should be that person who is not, who will not lead you to the bad side of it. If you realize the person is like that, then you have the right to quit that kind of relationship. You leave such people and you get people who are serious with the studies. That is for our case in class. Get people who are serious with the studies, people who are focused, and they want to make sure the performance improves. Not just getting people who will make us to perform poorly in class. Those ones are bad friends. They don't want us to succeed in life. So that is about the rights and the freedoms that we have in our country, in our district or country as well. Remember, sometimes these rights are violated. These rights are violated, and when we talk of violation of human rights, we mean that people are not given that freedom that they were to deserve, that they were to have. For example, you will find that when someone is taken to courts of law and is not given a free and fair hearing, there we say the person's rights were violated. When one is murdered, when one is killed, that is a violation of human rights. You have killed someone. Someone has been killed. When one is denied that freedom of movement, that is now what we call denial of or violation of human rights. So there are a lot of ways through which the human rights can be violated, including human sacrifice. That one also brings another way the human rights are being violated. We have people who abuse rights of others on that very page 30. Of course, like I have explained, human rights abuse. We have people like the murderers. These are people who can kill others. We have the rebels. Of course, we know rebels. These are armed people who can attack a place, attack others, they kill them, whatever they can do. Then we have thieves. Thieves, remember the thieves have two things. They come and steal and kill. Sometimes you find when they get you, for them to take your property, they have to first finish you. So these ones are also violating people's rights. And then we have those that take drugs. You find those ones who take jaga, marijuana, whatever, those ones there, we call them the drug addicts, can also violate or can also do harm to people, because you'll find that as they take those drugs, those things tend to affect their mental thinking, and they will not be able to reason normally as they would be without those drugs in their heads. And then we have also kidnappers, that we say these are people who can kidnap one, and of course they will have violated the rights of that person. I want us to go back to our primary 3 work, whereby we talked about child abuse, and here we are going to also look at it briefly on that very page 30. We have child abuse that we define as the violation of children's rights. We have ways we can define this. Child abuse. We can say child abuse is the violation. The word violation is here written. Sometimes we write a different word. Child abuse is the violation of children's rights. Of children's rights. Children's rights. We can also define child abuse as the denial of children's rights. If we don't want to use the word violation, as long as we are able to write children's properly, children's rights. Or we can simply say child abuse is the mistreatment of children. Mistreatment of children. But sometimes this one makes children to make a mistake. Sometimes you find you people say child abuse is the mistreatment of children's rights. No, we don't mistreat the children's rights. We mistreat children. It's the children to be mistreated, not their rights. So that is where we always fail here. But it's also better, it's also safe if we say child abuse is the mistreatment of children. If not, you can say is the violation of children's rights. Is the children's rights being violated? It is the children's rights being denied. You deny a child his or her rights. That is what we mean here. Now we have what we call the forms of child abuse. Forms of child abuse. And then we also have the examples. This is another tricky thing that always makes us to miss our marks in our papers. Child abuse, examples of child abuse. and then we have the forms of child abuse. Today I want us to get the difference between forms of child abuse and then the examples of child abuse. Now, the forms of child abuse, we have one, we shall have what we call physical abuse. Physical abuse, which means this is a situation or this is a way of affecting a child physically. It can involve things like battering, child battering, that is tying a child and beating a child excessively. Child battering can be child burning a child. You are affecting a child physically, or giving the child to have a lot of work that can affect the child's health. And then we have also what we call mental abuse. Mental abuse. Now, mental abuse, we are looking at things that will make the child's thinking affected, like maybe the torture, maybe abusing the child, insulting the child, or reminding a child of maybe what the child, or maybe the trauma that the child went through. These things will affect the child's thinking. That is what we call mental abuse. And then we have sexual abuse. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse will mean abusing a child sexually. That can be through defilement, can be through rape. These are the ones that fall under that we call sexual abuse. Then we have what we call neglect abuse. Neglect abuse. Neglect, as you can see, means you leave a child without helping a child. For example, sometimes you find children are denied food. We can call it simply denial of food. You find as the parents are eating, the child is starving down the table or somewhere while salivating just. So that one is what we call denial abuse. Neglect abuse. It makes a child neglected. You leave a child to suffer without giving food or helping. We are adding others. We talked about child labor, which comes under physical abuse, also child labor. We cannot go away without writing this. And other form, and other examples that we can also be having. All of these form the example. So I hope we have got the difference between the examples and the forms. This is child battering. Let me make it clear, because some of us might not be understanding it well. Child battering. There are a lot that we have not put here. For example, we have child sacrifice. Sacrificing a child affects the child. That one comes to what we call physical abuse as well. So we can add it here, child sacrifice. Child sacrifice. We have kidnapping a child. Kidnapping is also there, and other examples of child abuse that we have. So all those are the examples, and we have others which are given to us on page 30. We have some of them repeating. We have got burning children. That is what we have put here as child burning. And sometimes find that if a child maybe does maybe a mistake, and the parents sometimes maybe get the hands and burn. You say, bring your hands, these hands here, and let you to the sugar bowl and install sugar. Bring the hands, and they burn, they put their hands on the sigiri and they burn. So that is what we call child burning, or burning any other part of the child. And then defilement, kidnapping of children, denial of food, denial of shelter, denial of education, denial of medical care. All those ones come after neglect, abuse. You deny, you neglect, you don't want to help that child. So that is what happens. Then the other thing we need to know that we have got what we call the people who carry out child abuse that we are missing in our books. We are going to add that information a little here. People who carry out child abuse. So you also get your pen and you add this information. People who carry out child abuse. We are going to look at people who practice child abuse, and here we shall have people like the step parents. Step parents sometimes can carry out child abuse. Remember, the children are not their biological children, so they don't feel much love for them. They end up mistreating these children. And then we have the ritualists. Ritualists, we are looking at, these are people who take others for human sacrifice. They can get a child, then they take the child. Maybe the witch doctor says, I want the head of the child. So you'll find they come to look for the children, and they kidnap the child such that they take and cut the head. Then they use the head for rituals, and he gets riches. That is what we mean here. And then we also have other people like the rapists. These are also other people who practice what we call child abuse. They are the ones who can torture the children. And also some parents. Sometimes you find still their biological children, but they can torture them. That one also happens. We have the children's rights. As I was trying to tell you earlier on, the children's rights, these are the freedoms that are given to the child or given to children. And we are having the examples on page 30. We have the right to education, a right to parental love or parental care, a right to security, a right to eating, that is a right to food. Most of us love that one so much. We have a right to medical care. Then we have the right to speak with respect. And on page 31, we are given the people who promote or who protect the children's rights. We have the people like, we have the teachers, we have the parents, the doctors, and then we have the police. So these people here are the ones who can help you. Like in case you are tortured, in case you are experiencing child abuse, you can report to any of them, and they can help you out of that problem. Remember, when we were looking at the local council 1 committee, we looked at the person on the local council committee 1 who is in charge of children's affairs. And if you have forgotten, that was the vice chairperson. We said we can also report our issues to the vice chairperson on the local council 1 committee. He is the one in charge our affairs as children. Then also at the district level, we talked about the district probation officer, DPO, district probation officer. This is the person also that is now at the district level, not again at the local council 1 committee level. This is now at the district level, this is the person that we can still report our issues as children to, in case we are being violated. So that is what we are having. From that, we shall be having our exercise that will come from page 31, and it runs up to page 37 and 38. And there is some part of it on page 39. So make sure you get time and you sit down and you answer that topical exercise, that topical test, because it is for your own benefit. Use a good handwriting and concentrate, produce neat work, which is nice to mark, such that when your teacher receives the book, the teacher marks it with ease. Thank you. Otherwise, for now, next time we shall meet from there. Our lesson ends, and I thank you for your attention. Goodbye.